Hello, friends. Glad that you all joined me again on this wonderful Sunday evening. As I told you all yesterday in my inaugural video, that I'm going to be putting these out each Saturday and Sunday to give you just a little something to look forward to as you relax on your weekends. I want to continue to provide you with relaxation and calmness as we go through these difficult times during this pandemic. I just once again hope and pray that you're just not overcome with fear or in anxiety, that you just practice precautions and that you continue to just live life to the fullest and look out for one another. That being said, I'm going to be taking some poems on the topic of compassion. Yesterday, read on brotherhood, and we definitely need to be practicing compassion for one another right now. And I'm reading all of these from a wonderful collection. It's a treasury of poems. It was compiled by Sarah Ann Stewart. And after I read through these, I'm going to dig into some of Aesop's Fables, one of my favorites. So let's go ahead and get started. And this is from the great Emily Dickinson, undoubtedly my favorite poet. And this is If I Can Stop One Heart from Breaking. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one lonely person into happiness again, I shall not live in vain. This next one is Ruth Wynette Wheeler, Prayer for Shut-ins. Boy, do we need that one. Because, dear Lord, their way is rough and steep, and some are sore perplexed, and some do weep. We come to ask that thou wilt show the way, and give thy rod and staff to be their stay. Especially, dear Lord, for these we ask, who have not strength to meet their task, for all are weary on the road. Please give fresh courage, ease their load. This one's from James Whitcomb Riley. Life lesson. There, little girl, don't cry. They have broken your doll, I know, and your tea set blue, and your playhouse too, are things of the long ago. But childish troubles will soon pass by. There, little girl, don't cry. There, little girl, don't cry. They have broken your slate, I know, and the glad wild ways of your school girl days are the things of the long ago. But life and love will soon come by. There, little girl, don't cry. There, little girl, don't cry. They have broken your heart, I know, and the rainbow gleams of your youthful dreams are the things of the long ago. But heaven holds all for which you sigh. There, little girl, don't cry. This next one is Charity, and it's from Author Unknown. There's so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it ill behooves any of us to find fault with the rest of us. This next one is Song of the Shirt, and is by Thomas Hood. With fingers weary and worn, with eyelids heavy and red, a woman sat in unwomanly rags, plying her needle and thread. Stitch, 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 in poverty, hunger, and dirt, and still with a voice of dolorous pitch, she sang the song of the shirt. Work, 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 till the brain begins to swim. Work, 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 till the eyes are heavy and dim. Seam and cassette and band, band and cassette and seam, till over the buttons I fall asleep and sew them on in a dream. O men with sisters dear, O men with mothers and wives, it is not linen you're wearing out, but human creatures' lives. Stitch, 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 in poverty, hunger, and dirt, sewing at once with a double thread, a shroud as well as a shirt. But why do I talk of death, that phantom of grisly bone? I hardly fear his terrible shape, it seems so like my own. It seems so like my own, because of the fast I keep. O God, that bread should be so dear, and flesh and blood so cheap. Work, 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 all my neighbor Neville flags. And what are its wages? A bed of straw, a crust of bread and rags? That shadowed roof and this naked floor, a table, a broken chair, and a wall so bland, my shadow I thank for sometimes falling there. Work, 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 from weary chime to chime. Work, 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 a prisoner's work for crime. Band and gusset and seam, seam and gusset and band, till the heart is sick and the brain benumbed, as well as the weary hand. Work, work, work in the dull December light, and work, work, work when the weather is warm and bright. While underneath the eaves the brooding swallows cling, and if it to show me their sunny backs, entwine me with the spring. Oh, but for one short hour, a respite however brief, no blessed leisure for love or hope, but only time for grief. A little weeping would ease my heart, but in their briny bed my tears must stop, for every drop hinders needle and thread. With fingers weary and worn, with eyelids heavy and red, a woman sat in unwomanly rags, plying her needle and thread. Stitch, 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 in poverty, hunger, and dirt, and still with a voice of dolorous pitch, would that its tone could reach the rich, she sang this song of the shirt. That one was really touching. Sometimes you just find a poem that really hits you. Florette, hope I'm getting that right, and this is by Mr. Robert Service. My leg? It's off at the knee. Do I miss it? Well, some. You see, I've had it since I was born, and lately a devilish corn. I rather chuckle with glee to think how I fooled that corn. But I'll hobble around all right. Isn't that right? It's my face. Isn't it isn't that, it's my face. Oh, I know I'm a hideous sight, hardly a thing in place. Sort of gargoyle, you'd say. Nurse won't give me a glass, but I see the folks as they pass, shudder and turn away. Turn away in distress, mirror enough, I guess. I'm gay, you bet I am gay, but I wasn't a while ago. If you'd seen me even today, the darndest picture of woe, with this Caliban mug of mine, so ravaged and raw and red, turned to the wall, in fine, wishing that I was dead. So over the blanket's rim I raised my terrible face, and I saw how I envied him. A girl of such delicate grace, 16, all laughter and love, as gay as a linnet, and yet as tenderly sweet as a dove, half woman, half child, Fleurette. What has happened since then, since I lay with my face to the wall, the most despairing of men? Listen, I tell you all, that Poilu across the way, with the shrapnel wound in his head, has a sister. She came today to sit a while by his bed. All morning I heard him fret. Oh, when will she come, Fleurette? Then sudden a joyous cry, the tripping of little feet, the softest, tenderest sigh, a voice so fresh and sweet, clear as a silver bell, fresh as the morning dews. Sistoy, Marcel, mon frère, comme je suis heureuse. Then I turned to the wall again. I was awfully blue, you see, and I thought with a bitter pain, such visions are not for me. So there like a log I lay, all hidden, I thought, from view, when suddenly I heard her say, Ah, who is that Malheureux? Then briefly I heard him tell, however he came to know, how I'd smothered a bomb that fell into the trench, and so none of my men were hit, though it busted me up a bit. Well, I didn't quiver an eye, and he chattered, and there she sat, and I fancy I heard her sigh, but I wouldn't just swear to that. And maybe she wasn't so bright, though she talked in a merry strain, and so I closed my eyes ever so tight, yet I saw her ever so plain. Her dear little tilted nose, her delicate dimpled chin, her mouth like a budding rose, and the glistening pearls within. Her eyes like the violet, such a rare little queen, Fleurette. And at last when she rose to go, the light was a little dim, and I ventured to peep, and so I saw her, graceful and slim, and she kissed him, and oh, how I envied and envied him. So when she was gone, I said, in a rather dreary voice, to him of the opposite bend, Ah, friend, how you must rejoice! But me, I'm a thing of dread, for me nevermore to bliss the thrill of a woman's kiss. Then I stopped, for lo, she was there, and a great light shone in her eyes. And me, I could only stare, I was taken by surprise. Then she gently bent her head. "May I kiss you, Sergeant?" she said. Then she kissed my burning lips with her mouth like a scented flower. I thrilled to the fingertips, and I haven't even the power to say, "God bless you, dear." And I felt such a precious tear fall on my withered cheek, and darn it, I couldn't speak. And so she went sadly away, and I knew that my eyes were wet. Ah, not to my dying day will I forget. Can you wonder now I am gay? God bless her, that little Florette. That poem really just shows how even the small acts of kindness really make a big difference. I can think of many times when my life when I was hurting, just little things people said or did just really made my day, whether it's just stopping to ask how I was or just maybe an old friend calling to check up on me. Really need to do that for each other right now. But next, I'm going to get into Aesop's Fables. Um, Fables are, for those of you who may not be familiar with them, they're short stories typically with animals as characters. They have human-like characteristics. You know, they talk, they speak, and all of that. But the driving point is they're always talking about a moral lesson. That's definitely the case in Aesop's Fables. You see different characters displaying wisdom and discernment, being shrewd and clever, just different things that we need to have to live life successfully. I highly recommend it. It's a great collection. Um, there's a lot of myth and shrouds surrounding Aesop and exactly who he was, but apparently he was a he was a hunchback, and he was a servant in Greece, I believe. I think that's, if my memory serves me correct. But kind of being in his position, he was an astute observer of people. So he saw all the different mishappenings and failures and triumphs that people had, and he conveyed them in these stories. So I'm going to jump right in with some of these once I get through the very long table of contents. Like 284 of these in all. So if you dig into it, it'll keep you busy for a while. But here we go. The Fox and the Grapes. A hungry fox saw some fine bunches of grapes hanging from a vine that was trained along a high trellis and did his best to reach them by jumping as high as he could into the air. But it was all in vain, for they were just out of reach. So he gave up trying and walked away with an air of dignity and unconcern, remarking, "I thought those grapes were ripe, but I see now they are quite sour." The goose that laid the golden eggs. A man and his wife had the good fortune to possess a goose which laid a golden egg every day. Lucky though they were, they soon began to think they were not getting rich fast enough, and, imagining the bird must be made of gold inside, they decided to kill it in order to secure the whole store of precious metal at once. But once they cut it open, they found it was just like any other goose. Thus they neither got rich all at once, and as they had hoped, nor enjoyed any longer the daily addition to their wealth. The lesson from these two fables: much wants more and loses all. And just to note, in this version of Aesop's Fables, they've got them grouped up according to a lesson. So at the bottom of however many fables it may be, kind of the takeaway would be at the bottom. This next one is The Cat and the Mice. There was once a house that was overrun with mice. A cat heard of this and said to herself, "That's the place for me." And she went off and took up her quarters in the house and caught the mice one by one and ate them. At last the mice could stand it no longer, and they determined to take to their holes and stay there. "That's awkward," said the cat to herself. "The only thing to do is to coax them out by a trick." So she considered a while and then climbed up the wall and let herself hang down by her hind legs from a peg and pretended to be dead. By and by a mouse peeped out and saw the cat hanging there. "Aha!" it cried. "You're very clever, madame, no doubt. But you may turn yourself into a bag of meal hanging there if you like, yet you won't catch us coming anywhere near you." If you are wise, you won't be deceived by the innocent errors of those whom you have once found to be dangerous. The mischievous dog. There was once a dog who used to snap at people and bite them without any provocation, and who was a great nuisance to everyone who came to his master's house. So his master fastened a bell round his neck to warn people of his presence. The dog was very proud of the bell, and strutted about tinkling it with immense satisfaction. But an old dog came up to him and said, "The fewer airs you give yourself, the better, my friend. You don't think, do you, that your bell was given you as a reward of merit? On the contrary, it's a badge of disgrace. Notoriety is often mistaken for fame." The charcoal burner and the fueler. There was once a charcoal burner who lived and worked by himself. A fueler, however, happened to come and settle in the same neighborhood, and the charcoal burner, having made his acquaintance and finding he was an agreeable sort of fellow, asked him if he would come and share his house. "We shall get to know one another better that way," he said, "and besides, our household expenses will be diminished." The fueler thanked him, but replied, "I couldn't think of it, sir. Why, everything I take such pains to whiten would be blackened in no time by your charcoal." The mice in council. Once upon a time all the mice met together in council and discussed the best means of securing themselves against the attacks of the cat. After several suggestions had been debated, a mouse of some standing and experience got up and said, "I think I have hit upon a plan which will ensure our safety in the future, provided you approve and carry it out. It is that we should fasten the bell round the neck of our enemy the cat, which will by its tinkling warn us of her approach." This proposal was warmly applauded, and it had already been decided to adopt it when an old mouse got upon his feet and said, "I agree with you all that the plan before us is an admirable one, but may I ask who is going to bell the cat?" The bat and the weasels. A bat fell to the ground and was caught by a weasel, and was just going to be killed and eaten when it begged to be let go. The weasel said he couldn't do that because he was an enemy of all birds on principle. "Oh, but," said the bat, "I'm not a bird at all. I'm a mouse." "So you are," said the weasel. "Now I come to look at you," and he let it go. Some time after this, the bat was caught in just the same way by another weasel, and as before begged for its life. "No," said the weasel, "I never let a mouse go by any chance." "But I'm not a weasel," said the bat, "I'm a bird." "Why, so you are," said the weasel, and he too let the bat go. Look and see which way the wind blows before you commit yourself. This one is the dog and the sow. A dog and a sow were arguing, and each claimed that its own young ones were finer than those of any other animal. "Well," said the sow at last, "mine can see at any rate when they come into the world, but yours are born blind." The fox and the crow. A crow was sitting on a branch of a tree with a piece of cheese in her beak, when a fox observed her and set his wits to work to discover some way of getting the cheese. Coming and standing on the tree, he looked up and said, "What a noble bird I see above me! Her beauty is without equal, the hue of her plumage exquisite. If only her voice is as sweet as her looks are fair, she ought without doubt to be the queen of the birds." The crow was hugely flattered by this, and just to show the fox that she could sing, she gave a loud caw. Down came the cheese, of course, and the fox, snatching it up, said, "You have a voice, madame, I see. What you want is wits." You're going to see that theme a lot of the fox representing cleverness. The horse and the groom. There was once a groom who used to spend long hours clipping and combing the horse of which he had charge, but who daily stole a portion of its allowance of oats and sold it for his own profit. The horse gradually got into worse and worse condition, and at last it cried to the groom, "If you really want me to look sleek and well, you must comb me less and feed me more." The wolf and the lamb. A wolf came upon a lamb straying from the flock, and felt some compunction about taking the life of so helpless a creature, without some plausible excuse. So he cast about for a grievance, and said at last, "Last year, sirrah, you grossly insulted me." "That is impossible, sir," bleated the lamb, "for I wasn't born then." "Well," retorted the wolf, "you feed in my pastures." "That cannot be," replied the lamb, "for I have never yet tasted grass." "You drink from my spring then," continued the wolf, Indeed, sir, said the poor lamb, I've never yet drunk anything but my mother's milk. Well, anyhow, said the wolf, I'm not going without my dinner, and he sprang upon the lamb and devoured it without more ado. The Peacock and the Crane. A peacock taunted a crane with the dullness of her plumage. Look at my brilliant colors, said she, and see how much finer they are than your poor feathers. I am not denying, replied the crane, that yours are far gayer than mine. But when it comes to flying, I can soar into the clouds, whereas you are confined to the earth like any dunghill rooster. The Cat and the Birds. A cat heard that the birds in the aviary were ailing, so he got himself up as a doctor, and, taking with him a set of the instruments proper to his profession, presented himself at the door and inquired after the health of the birds. We shall do very well, they replied, without letting him in, when we've seen the last of you. A villain may disguise himself, but he will not deceive the wise. The Spendthrift and the Swallow. A spendthrift, who had wasted his fortune and had nothing left but his clothes in which he stood, saw a swallow one fine day in early spring. Thinking that summer had come and that he could now do without his coat, he went and sold it for what it would fetch. A change, however, took place in the weather, and there came a sharp frost which killed the unfortunate swallow. When the spendthrift saw his dead body, he cried, Miserable bird, thanks to you, I am perishing of cold myself. One swallow does not make summer. And I'm going to stop there. I hope you've enjoyed that. We will take place again next weekend. Might do some more of Aesop's Fables or another one from the Jungle Books, as well as some more poetry. I'll listen and wait for the feedback from you all. Or if there's something else you'd like me to dig into, please just comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also follow my Twitter at Hallows Walt. I think I've got my Twitter handle right. I'm new to all of this. um, at Hollows Walter. There we go. Twitter puts it backwards. But this has been really fun for me. It's a new adventure. I never done a YouTube channel. I've been a big fan of a lot of different other narration channels, like the Let's Not Meet stories and such. A lot of great and talented folks out there. But I'm so happy that I finally got to doing this myself, especially during these times. Uh, haven't done Twitter either, so that's new. Getting caught up on all this fancy social media. Um, Probably going to start a Facebook page for this too. I'd really like to build a community where you all can share your favorite poems and literature as well as post your own. I'd love to read your work and keep sharing. I have some of my own that I'd like to share with you all as well. So it's just going to be onward and upward from here. I will see you next weekend. Take care.